over. Sorry.
No, go for it. Go for it. You're good.
Yeah, not to give to go long. So if I'm going long in explanation or whatever, let me know. I mean,
yeah, I'm pretty good. I'll start doing stuff like this. Like I want to chime in and like kind of lets you know, like, oh,
that works.
Yeah. Trust me, I had to develop some type of tactic to let people know, like, hey,
Yeah,
it's all good.
Sorry about that.
All right,
good.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today we got a real treat for you. His name is Robert Van Den Akker. He's the Environmental Operations Manager for the City of Buckeye in beautiful Arizona. Robert, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, how are you doing?
What's Van Den Akker? What's that? Where's the origin from?
So actually, I'm first generation American. My dad came here from Holland. He was, he came here on a boat from Holland, and it was interesting having two languages in the house growing up. So he's Dutch.
What's the language? Dutch? Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, Dutch. It means of the cultivated land.
Okay, I like it. All right. Well, let's dig into more about Robert. Let's talk about a random Tuesday for Robert. What are you doing from the time you get to the office to the time you get out of there? Give us a rundown so people can know all the stuff that you have your hands on and all the stuff you're over.
Well, absolutely. I mean, actually, my day starts at about between 5 and 5:30 when I wake up in the morning, and I double check my schedule, make sure I'm not late for anything, make sure I'm prepared for everything, and whether or not it's going to rain, because that'll impact things as well. Not that it rains that frequently here, but when I get to the office, I just run through email, making sure that there's no high-level impacts that I need to address right away. Make sure that I'm looking at all my email from my supervisor, from my boss, and then I go about my normal activities, which is just making sure that we're different compliance activities that the city is responsible for. Everything has a schedule: air qualities, stormwater, and solid waste, household hazardous waste. Just that everything is on schedule, and that we're not getting in trouble for anything.
Gotcha. So a lot of emails, probably a lot of meetings for you. What are you don't have to give me any details or anything, but what are some of the emails that come from, you say, like the top down from your boss, supervisor, manager, and then also some of the emails that might come from, it might be the public side or even some of your employees?
Absolutely. So my immediate supervisor is the Public Works Director's office, and they'll want to communicate to me about either high-level complaints that have gotten to the city manager's office. It could be on anything related to any environmental concern, air quality, stormwater, or trash concern, recycling concern. And then also I do some plan review. So if there's discussions or issues that would affect the department regarding plan review, that would come from the Public Works Director's office. But then we have, right now, 37,000 customers, 37,000 homes that we provide trash service for. And that's all solid waste aspects: trash, recycling, bulk trash, and household hazardous waste. And at any one time, I'd say, thank God, just under 1% of the population is upset. So that means I'm doing a good job if it's less than 1%. So yeah, I easily end up with a couple hundred email at the beginning of every day.
Wow.
It's easy to filter
before you even start. I'm sure. City of Buckeye, give us the lay of the land, what it looks like. A lot of people don't know, like, the crazy amount of growth it's been going through, and then talk to just kind of where maybe how long you've been at Buckeye, and where you see it going.
Sure. So City of Buckeye, actually, right now, I think the planning area where our full build out area is 649 square miles. We're only, I think, a quarter, built or just over a quarter built out right now. And in the future, we anticipate having, I think it's a home population of 2 million, something like that. It's home population or total population. Anyway, it's a lot. It will dwarf, make Phoenix look small.
Wow.
But where we're at right now, in 2000, we had 5,000 homes. And now we're in 2024 and we've got 37,000 homes. And so it's, mostly new growth, which is good because it's with good engineering and planning, in place before the growth came in. I started in 2015. And basically, when I started, that's when the city realized that they needed to look at more than just solid waste. They needed to have a real environmental, full spectrum environmental impact concern related to the public works aspect of stormwater quality, air quality, and the ongoing concerns of solid waste as you have a growing population. When I started, I think we had 17,000 homes. So like I said, now we have 37,000. It's growing crazy.
Sure. What are some of the, because we all know when things start to grow, you can't really, handle it how you've been handling it, in the past. Meaning you have to implement systems, procedures,
Yep.
Checks and balances, mid management, stuff like that. So give us some of the, I guess, some of the things that were implemented and some of the growing pains in the department where you're like, man, we're growing so fast and we just got to be able to keep up.
Well, yes. So some of it we do reach and we're able to take care of, and some of it we just learn to prioritize. When I started, we had just hired an environmental compliance officer, and that environmental compliance officer was really just to make sure that high-level items in the field, both with customer failure to put trash out properly, which happens, to actual environmental impact where we have spills and other things of that nature and enforcement cases, that we're actually able to handle them. Since that time, we've added one more position that deals more with some of the pollution prevention concerns, stormwater and air quality. And we continuously are asking for more. I could very easily add 2 more staff and have enough for all of them to run at 100%. So right now it's prioritization. Another thing that we really added since I started is the household hazardous waste disposal program, because you can have solid waste, but if you're not making sure that the normal, under your kitchen cabinet and in your garage and from your pool chemicals, things like that, and cleaners, if they're not kept separate, they can start fires. They can get dangerous. So we work to make sure, and we added that to our list of things to make sure that our customers have an appropriate way to get rid of that material. So, but with all of that, we prioritize, and we make sure that the most important things, the higher hitting things, the things that have the biggest impact, get the most time. And that's the only way we're able to operate.
Gotcha. So give us a brief backstory of Robert's career trajectory. I always imagine a youngster listening to your episode and going, man, I can model my career after Robert. So give us a trajectory from high school to all the way up to the city of Buckeye and how you navigated through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in high school, I loved the sciences. I loved biology. I loved knowing the how and why of things. So when I decided to go to college, and I took the track of wanting to actually become a medical doctor. And so my degree is in molecular and microbiology because I thought it was fun. And at heart, I really am a scientist. I love figuring out the how and why, asking questions, and seeing how the answers are really related to just the interactions of things. It's more than just calculations. It's how in biological processes, just how things interact with each other. But then I soon after I graduated, I realized I really did not like the medical field. It just was not a place for me. I got a job working with patient care, and it was not where my heart was. So then I got a job in a lab, and within a year, I got extremely bored. So then I found a job in environmental, and I found that as I would learn and constantly perfect whatever I was working at, my supervisors that, whomever my supervisor was, always had something new that they wanted to put on my plate. So since 1999, actually, I've been working in the environmental field and have always had something new on my plate, always something to learn. And um, it's been exciting. It really has. I think I got into management related to solid waste 2004 timeframe. There was hurricanes that went through. I was in Florida. There were 3 hurricanes that went through the Central Florida area, and I was put in charge of a debris cleanup area. And we were really interacting closely with residents, and I really enjoyed it. And so from there, I just kind of kept learning more about solid waste and the environmental impacts of not taking care of solid waste appropriately, which was exciting. And I read the law and read the rules. And what I found is many people that are in the environmental field are in it for emotional reasons, and they forget about the implementation of the law, and that they're actually bound and restricted by what the law allows. And by learning the law, I actually became a regional expert in stormwater pollution prevention for in the Florida area, where we would get 40 inches of rain a year. And from there, I was able to find a job actually working for a contractor. So I worked for a contractor for a little bit, and the way economy goes, I ended up getting a job in Arizona, which it is what it is. But I had never thought of going to Arizona. Certainly don't have enough rain to meet my stormwater pollution prevention criteria, but I learned new things, became a registered sanitarian, and really learned how the environmental aspect and the engineering aspect of environmental quality makes sense for populations. And that kind of then put me into the next step to get into management related to public works and solid waste. That it was we're talking a 20-year, 15-year stretch.
Yeah.
It was a long time. But no, I love sanitation.
No, that's perfect. And it's interesting because whenever I think of environmental, I mean, you would think like, oh, let's save the manatees, let's hug a tree, that kind of that energy behind environmental. But as you describe it, it's literally solid waste, helping people get rid of the rubbish, the trash, what they have, and either doing something with it or just getting rid of it altogether. And I love how practical you are about it, because you said you read the law behind it. And instead of thinking of it as a like I was saying, a hug a tree moment, it's like, hey, how can we efficiently and objectively get this done, and get rid of it?
Absolutely. It's about pollution prevention. And, I love the idea of pollution prevention, but there's the rules that we have to follow and we're restricted by. And so how do we make this work and not negatively impact the population that we're in charge of? Because each man is an island. When I step onto their front porch, that's their castle. So I need to make sure that I'm, being respectful of their property.
Sure. Let's say you're mentoring a youngster and they ask you, let's say, Robert, what one skill set should I pick up to be successful at what you're currently doing today? What would that one skill set be?
Analysis and research, constantly asking why, and then researching the cause behind whatever it is that you're looking for. With environmental, there's always the research of either the person or the property, and where they're at and what's going on and why they're doing what they're doing. But then there's also, well, how much authority do we have? So the environmental law, being able to read and understand the law, that's part of the research as well. And always being able to learn as you're researching, because there's engineering standards for environmental health. And all of these things, you don't have to be an engineer to gain that understanding. You just have to do the research and do the work yourself. Pick yourself up by your own bootstraps and learn.
Sure. Analysis and research. You would think in the line of your work you're in, I mean, you're picking up trash, right? You got X amount of guys are doing a route. It's like, what is there to analyze or research about that? But I'm sure there's more to it.
So on the one hand, that's true, but picking up the trash is only part of it. You need to make sure, first of all, that it's placed out properly, that the right material is placed out. Now we've got recycling there. Well, what is recyclable in my region? Because what's recyclable in Phoenix, Arizona, and Buckeye, Arizona, is not the same as what's recyclable in Boston, Massachusetts, or in Los Angeles, California, because the market's different. And then household hazardous waste. Well, that's an entirely different thing as well. But all of the drivers need to be able to recognize and understand, wait, that looks like paint. That looks like some sort of hazardous material. Maybe I shouldn't pick that up. So there, from the, you could call it simple labor, but it's not simple labor. Everybody has to be thinking safety about what they're doing. And that's just in the labor that's driving the truck. That's a serious job, driving that truck. You've got also the neighborhood you need to make sure that you're aware of, or if it's in an alley, well, we know that typically there's maybe some vagrants that are in this alley a lot. We need to be careful. There's a whole bunch of aspects of research, and it just depends on which, what your specific role is as to what that research would be. Some of it might seem easier than others, but even household hazardous waste, that's an entirely, separate task by itself. The person that runs that needs to learn chemistry. They need to have an idea of chemistry. They need to, get training in it and constantly be reminding themselves of the different chemical types, and then just going out and seeing what's available on the supermarket and saying, hey, that's a new item. What's that made out of? So just having a constant awareness of there's life about and it's changing, and how do we make sure that we're meeting that change?
That's a good point, because flushable quote unquote wipes weren't an issue before flushable wipes came out. You get what I'm saying? Like,
oh, absolutely. The flushable wipes, recycling bags. No, you can't do recycling bags right now. There's no such thing as a recycling bag. You can buy them in the store, but it's not real.
I love it. I was with the crew out in Wilmington, North Carolina, and the sewers underground were 70, 80 years old, like terracotta brick, super old. And they had to be really, really delicate around them because you could crack them, break them, and mess it up even more. And I wanted to ask you, since Buckeye is so fresh, so new, isn't it kind of refreshing that you can make your own inroad? You're smiling. You can kind of make your own way as it's growing, and like, oh, that's the stamp we put on it because we know how efficient it's going to run, instead of having to right everybody's wrongs. Or not saying the old regime did bad, but as you grow, you can kind of make your own statements.
Absolutely. You've got aging infrastructure, and that's certainly one thing. And then there's just engineering design that didn't have the ideas and knowledge 20, 30 years ago that we have now. That is a big challenge when you're in an older area and historic area, where most of the items that we have are new, was made with current engineering standards. That by itself is refreshing, because a lot of what I would see as pollution prevention in an older area, I don't see in my city, or it's more easy to deal with because it was designed appropriately. But then also, that is another important part of my job, is to be part of the planning process. We get 2,000, new homes a year still coming into the city. I can look at all of that, not to even mention the ever-growing industrial area. I have a little bit of a say on what's going on here and what's allowed for sanitation. So I look at every single one of these developments, and that's a big part of our plan activity as well, is having sanitation as a part of the discussion.
Sure. Thanks for answering that. One more question kind of around that. Whatever happened to the alley? Like, why did people stop creating alleys? I feel like alleys are the best for like trash pickup, for like service trucks. Instead of your gardener being in your front yard, they could park in the alley and like keep the streets cool. Like, what happened? Talk to me.
So I don't know who thought of using alleys, but it actually is one of the worst possible places ever.
Is it
Ever.
really? No way.
Well, so what we would really like is for trash and recycle carts to be put away, that they're not left out all the time. And in many areas where there are alleys, the trash and recycle carts are put away. In Buckeye, 90% of the alleys are private roadways, private driveways, really. Just shared by multiple houses. So we don't really have much of a say on what goes on in those alleys. And so I can't say, well, put your, trash cart away. Well, it is away. It's on my property. Okay, well, because when I say put it away, it means take it off of the edge of the right of way. So that by itself creates a problem. And then with development nowadays is a bit more tight than it used to be. It's a bit more constricted. So
we really
yeah. So and that's the way development is going. That's what the market is calling for and what people are buying. It gets really congested with, you've got one 96-gallon trash can, one 96-gallon recycle can in 10 homes. Suddenly there's almost no room to be putting out these carts for same-day service. So it can get pretty tight. And plus people like having vegetation in their alley. And it is a nightmare for the drivers. We're talking about the drivers getting through and picking up. It can be dangerous for the drivers and really close. People don't always park appropriately in the alleys if they've got a little driveway area. So yeah, alleys are concerning. I recommend not.
You're happy they're gone. They're done away with.
Yes. I every time an alley comes up in development, I say, really, do we want to do this? I don't think it's a good idea. Let me show you some pictures of some existing alleys that look really, really not pretty.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right. It is story time. I need a story from Robert when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Absolutely. So there have been a lot of things that have gone wrong that have been good lessons learned. But one that specifically comes to mind is related to when I started more in the management position for operating solid waste. I had gotten really close with the notification time frame for educating residents on when a holiday was coming up, when they could put their trash out, that there was going to be a delay in service and what that impact was going to be. And I only used one media outlet to get that information out. Needless to say, I will never use one media outlet again, and I will always try to be timely. But what happened was it was in billing insert, and many people just did not see their billing insert. They didn't look at it. And so I would say a quarter of the population, and at the time it was probably 20,000 homes, completely missed the date. They missed that they were not supposed to have their material out on a particular day. So people had it out, and then we got all these complaints, and it went up to the city manager's office, which is always a bad thing. If there's a complaint, it's okay. If it comes to me, I'll handle it. I'll make sure. But if it goes above my head, then there's a problem. So really what I learned from that, always use as many media platforms as I can, writing, digital, and actually now with most holidays, we do phone blasts as well. Be as timely as possible, at least a couple of weeks in advance for most of the media information, and then the week of whatever that holiday is going to be, go ahead and put out a phone blast. And truly, and it's actually something that I've done now for all of my outreach. I try to do monthly emails to all of my residents. I put my name on it. Who's in charge? I'm in charge. Whose error was it? It was my error. And, or who do you need to contact? You contact Robert Vandenacker. And that automatically, it's not people being upset at the city, it's people being upset at a person. And it personalizes it. So, and I call people and they're like, oh, you sent this out. Oh, it was your voice on that phone blast that I got. Yes, it was me. So personalizing it has really helped just to also help people recognize that we're all part of a community and errors might be made, but we'll do what we can to try to fix them and be as timely as possible.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that diffuses a lot of negative energy because they know that, like, oh, Robert probably has his own things going on in his own life, so let me just not make 50,000 calls down there trying to cuss people out.
And they know, they know who to contact, and we try not to make the error.
Yes. Talk to me about bulk waste. The city, I'm in Peoria, Peoria, Arizona. We just switched from, it was like a route, I guess, to a appointment schedule. In California, we didn't have anything like this, so it's really refreshing that whether it's a route or an appointment, it's pretty cool. Like, talk to me about why bulk waste is done right out here, and then what's your best practice with it and how other cities around the country can get involved and step it up.
No, absolutely. So when I had first seen bulky trash collection in Buckeye, and I was spent some time in Mesa as well. I had seen it a little bit in different communities, but not at the rate and volume that it occurs in this region. It is good because people have especially as the community ages, literally as the homes get older, people generally build up more trash and more larger trash. They need to swap out couches and mattresses, and so that does work. I would like to try to move Buckeye from, right now we have quarterly collection and it's just regional. In your area, put your bulky material out and it will get collected. A trash truck will drive by every single house and will collect whatever is put out up to, it's actually 6 feet by 6 feet area. And there are some limitations on weight because, people need to be able to pick it up. But in general, there's other things you can find out at buckeyez.gov/trash. But it does really work out. I would like for our city to move to scheduled trash collection as well. But that is the thing about service, is once you start a service with customers, changing service is a big deal. It would certainly be easier for managing resources if it was scheduled. So customers from a certain region would call in, and we'd be able to say, okay, every day we'll be able to pick up maybe 100 or 200 piles. But as it is right now, material gets put out. And I know we had bulky trash for one region last week, and there were 700 piles on a Monday. And it does then take us a few days to meet that standard of picking all that up. And inevitably you end up with some people that, oh, I forgot my bulk trash. So they'll put out more, or, they'll put out an extra pile or so, or, add to what was there. And so there's some challenges with it. But I think the best it would be to try to move to scheduled the way you all have it. It certainly is helpful to a lot of the community. Doesn't have trucks. They don't have ways to take material from, to get rid of a washer or a dryer or something along those lines. So it really is. Yeah, it is something that is very helpful to the community.
Gotcha. And we'll put your name and number down to borrow your truck next time. All right. So how does Robert keep showing up better and better year after year? What's your personal and professional development regimen like?
Personal and professional. Well, so personal, I mean, be honest, and really, I read the Bible every morning. Um, I, Truthfully, all wisdom, all knowledge, and pretty much, and understand, I'm 52 years old. All life problems that I have run into, and I've been married for 28 years this year, and have two teenage boys that challenging. um, can be found in scripture, and you can find that guidance in the Bible for all of those, knowledge, wisdom, and how to live life. So that's how I keep myself grounded. But then professionally, I look at enforcement journals. EPA puts out some enforcement material and enforcement information, what they're currently working on. And I keep in touch with um, different conferences and things, whatever leadership for the different environmental areas that I'm in charge of put out. Both there's county and there's state and there's regional for our region, Maricopa Association of Governments, and also federal level, just looking at what all the leadership is saying so I can have an idea of what direction that they're going into so that I can provide appropriate direction for our population as we continue to move forward. Change always happens. There's always new understanding. Just look at PFAS. That was something that we didn't know about as a pollutant, but now we know about it. Now it's something that we can address. Microplastics. It's something that we know about now. We didn't know about it, 10, 20 years ago. Certainly not as a population and pollution standard. So staying on top of those things is another important aspect of the job.
Sure. So the Bible and some industry, I guess, reads from it. What's the latest book that you've read lately?
Actually, I do have it. Climate Uncertainty and Risk by Judith Curry. It's so, I mean, climate concerns and climate change is on everybody's list of concerns. There's so much information and there's so much emotionalism that's put out in the media, and there's so much political activity. It's very concerning because, remember, I'm a scientist and I'm a regulator, which means I'm going to ask, I'm going to research, and I'm only going to implement those things that are solid, that we have solid information on. Well, there's a lot of non-solid that I've found in incorrect information, or just wonky, can't find any support for the information in the whole climate change thing. This book has really helped me just to kind of see, okay, what is the information that's out there, and how should we evaluate the risk that we do need to, how do we evaluate what the risk is? So that it's a great read for that.
That's good. Instead of, going on Facebook, Instagram, or even some of the major news networks, they'll tell you climate change is going to end the world like yesterday. And you can run around with like your head's on fire and scream and, kick about climate change. But I like your approach. You read a little bit of the Bible first, kind of set the tone, and then read into some other information that kind of, I would say, combats it or balances it out, but gives you another perspective to where you can make better decisions off of different information.
Absolutely. That a lot of times people have an emotional response when they see something, but they haven't really researched or analyzed what the information is. And, I fully understand it can be scary, but until you get real information and analyze it and think about it, you can't make an emotional response because you don't know what truth is yet.
Yeah. And that's why it's $1 trillion industry already.
Yes.
All right. Let's say I asked your wife's best friend, what does Robert do? What does he do for the community? What value does he provide? What would she get totally wrong in answering that question? Like, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about you and what you do?
Well, everybody just thinks that, all I care about is trash, and that I just, I love trash. No, I don't love trash. I love things being clean. But typically, and I live in the city too. So, when I go to parties and visit with friends, oh, this is the trash guy, and don't let him see your recycling. uh, but no, that is what it ends up looking like is people just see me as the person that knows about trash and is a little bit crazy with that. But I would not say that I'm not crazy, but I for a reason.
Gotcha. So don't go to parties with Robert.
Well, we end up talking about trash.
Yeah. Let's say. Well, no. Let me ask this question first. Where have you seen trash done well, or heard of it done well around the world, like in different countries? Like who's getting it right to where the city of, or you could model after what they do to nail it in the city of Buckeye?
Yeah, so that by itself is a really big question because trash is dealt with regionally and it's dealt with based on cost. So, for example, I went to a conference in Boston, and that same weekend, right after that conference, I was fortunate enough to go to the city of New York and to, anyway, a city right around in a state nearby. Shoot, forget the name of it. But anyways, three cities in New England, and each state had their own rules because they were running out of landfill space. And which, by the way, Boston is one of the cleanest cities I've ever been to. It's very, very clean.
Really?
Very clean
Yeah.
alleys. I was very impressed. And having grown up in that area, I was very proud. Um, but when you compare that to Phoenix, well, we're surrounded by desert. The Buckeye itself has a Southwest Regional Landfill that has 120 years life on its landfill. Immediately across the street, pretty much, is the City of Phoenix landfill. I think that has a 500-year lifespan on it, and it's surrounded by desert. So we're not constrained with the same problems that they are, in Los Angeles, where they're running out of room and land is extremely expensive, or even, in Massachusetts or other areas that are along the coastline that are really over, have high populations and high land values. So it is difficult regionally, to say, because you're not really comparing apples to apples. But I will say, I know that, for example, you said worldwide. I know that Holland has a lot of really amazing recycling activities and reuse activities. We can learn a lot by our neighbors and seeing what's done. And that's one of the reasons why I do research and try to find out who's doing what and how to best, implement that in our region. Our economic development in the city of Buckeye actually has reached out to a plastics manufacturing company, and they've located in Buckeye. And I know that we're going to try to get recycled plastics heavily used in their manufacturing process. And I can announce it. It's been on the papers, and they've started building. It's Rurig
That's
Pacific.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big deal, because where plastics are used, we suddenly have a place to put our recycled plastics. That's as the regional area changes in its use of recyclables, suddenly we'll be able to use those recyclables instead of shipping them to Canada or other places. So as long as we can have our local manufacturing, we can have more uses for our local reusable materials, or recyclable materials. So there's a lot to regional marketplace.
Sure. All right, let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Buckeye. What ask of your community in regards to, let's say, solid waste would you put on this billboard?
I would say help keep Buckeye clean. It's just carte blanche, and it doesn't matter whether it's to staff or to the general population. We're all in it together. We're a community, and everybody can do their part, whether it's throwing stuff into the trash, making sure the trash is bagged and tied, just we can all help.
Love it. Love it. All right. So what do you do, I guess, in your spare time? How do you let your hair down? I'm sure you're always, looking at the trash can, thinking of better ways to recycle for the city and for your own family. But how do you step away from it all and kind of decompress?
I am. And so actually my wife and I are part of a small 501c3 group that is called Creative Arts and Production Academy. It's capaaz.org. The mission of the group is to create community events. And we also provide fine arts classes. We recently put on The Wizard of Oz. I do not act, but I built stage sets and assisted with the finances. We put on The Wizard of Oz at the theater in the park in Goodyear last month. And actually over Christmas, we did the Grinch, a Grinch story. And actually coming up, we have an event, Spring Formal for teens. That's coming up in another month. And then part of our group is also doing a 72-hour film challenge, which will be the first in the West Valley. So you're given 72 hours.
That.
Yeah,
I'm a film guy, so explain it.
You know what? You might be interested. So and anybody, I say West Valley, but it can be anybody in the Valley. So we'll put out a notice about the film challenge, and teams can go ahead, or individuals can go ahead and sign up. And at the beginning of the film challenge, you'll be given a slogan and certain props and things that need to be used. And you'll have 72 hours to create produce a film, edit it, and submit it. And once it's submitted, we have a team that'll review it, and the top 10 entries will be shown at the Harkins Theater in Goodyear. So we've rented out we've rented out the theater already, and we're excited. I think it's going to be great.
Oh man, I got to keep my eye out for that. Sure.
Yeah.
You can't give me a tip, like a gentleman's tip me off to what the title is going to be so I can prep?
Oh, I don't even know that yet. Oh. No, but this is so we get community involved, after COVID and all that. And we had teenage kids. We realized, okay, so we still need to make sure that the community, that our neighbors and the larger community knows each other, and that the kids don't forget how to have and be a part of community. So we've really got together and just said, hey, let's get everybody together and just find reasons to sit down together or to play together or to have these productions and bring the community in to see these productions, or to have, and it's mostly homeschoolers, but for fine arts, but to have these fine arts classes to build avenues, because people actually, they're homeschooling more and more now, to build these avenues for kids to experience things that they might not be able to get in their home.
Gosh, man, you're preaching to the choir. I was homeschooled, and that's one of my wife's and my not debates right now. Is I want to homeschool the children. We're still figuring that out, so pray for us.
Absolutely, it is a challenge. And every year we would look at it and say, should we do it this year? Because it's a commitment. It is a real commitment. And my wife will say, if anybody can, if she can do it, anybody can do it. My wife is from Puerto Rico. English is a second language. And you know what? It works. There's so much help out there to assist. There's a lot of actually homeschool community groups. Turning into a little presentation here for homeschool stuff, but there's a lot out there to support that. We're all out to make sure that our community is healthy, and to make sure that our kids are growing up and being taken care of. And that's one of the things that are near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. So we could talk about that for hours, but let's keep it focused here.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. So I always like to leave the space on the show for you to thank mentors you had along your journey. And then also, I want you to give you a word of inspiration and motivation to your environmental operations manager industry counterparts.
So no, absolutely. For mentors, I've got two actually. One was Jackie Mobley, and this was in Florida. Jackie, she was a professional engineer, and she really walked me through when I was fresh in the environmental field, what an environmental program, really how it runs. Mostly, it's a collaborative effort. And making the community and having good communication is the key to making it run. And then John Geiger, who was also a professional engineer in Florida, he basically inspired me to slow down and look at each step of the process, even if it was difficult, because it's necessary, and not to rush through things. And word of motivation, really, it kind of doesn't matter what field you're in, and it may sound wonky, but love your neighbor. Love your neighbor, regardless of who it is, whether it's a work group, person next door, because love is patient, love is kind, and love does not demand its own way. And so if you're loving your neighbor, you will end up having success, and you'll make sure that your neighbor, you'll help them have success. And suddenly you've got community. That's how we all work together.
That is true. That's true. All right, let's say I'm coming to Buckeye and I text you ahead of time and I say, Robert, where can I go to get the best burger in Buckeye? Where are you going to send me?
Ooh, so that's an easy one. Arlington Cattle Company. It's actually right down the street from my office here. They have amazing burgers, and they have local meats too. So if you're going to eat there, that's great. But you can also take some amazing meats home. It's all locally grown. Great stuff. Arlington Cattle Company.
All right, Arlington it is. All right. Thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge with us. Anything you wanted to share before we get out of here? Any final words?
We've covered a lot. I just want to thank you, Joseph, this whole, because I've listened to not all the podcasts, but many of them. I really appreciate it. Just bringing a light to the public works groups. We do a lot for the community, and if the community is not aware of what we do, then we've done it successfully. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing to bring this all to light. Yeah, no, but it's true. If the potholes are taken care of quickly, people don't know that it was there. And, if the lights go out, but we get them right back on again, they don't know that we were there. But then we've done our job well. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I think this is historic, actually. Thank you,
man. Thank you. It means a lot. Robert, thank you for hopping on the podcast once again. To all the listeners out there, again, share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.